Hello, and welcome back to the All Out Soccer podcast. Myself, Jeremy Goldstein, and my co-host, Joseph McBride, we're two football fans talking about soccer. We focus on a fusion of the MLS, the US men's and women's soccer teams, and the build-up to the 2026 World Cup. This week, it's back to the MLS. And Joe, I have to bring it back. Guten Tag. How are we doing this week?
I'm very well, thank you. How you doing?
I'm good. Basking in full weekend, it feels like, to finally just focus on the MLS itself. Not really have to dive into the League Cup. Obviously, interesting tournament. No, it finally gets its time to shine, I feel like. And we're, finally in the build-up towards the end of the season.
Yeah, no, it's definitely getting that way. It's getting exciting towards the back end of it now. And I'm just really excited for those MLS Cup playoffs to begin.
Yeah, we're getting close. Just a quick little alliterative monologue for me this week. It's been a while. There's Muller magic against Philly as the German legend bagged his first hat trick in the MLS. Miami was outmuscled by Charlotte in a stunning 3-0 loss away from home for Inter Miami. Dennis Bouanga bags 3 against San Jose. Atlanta almost mount the comeback of all comebacks against El Columbus, but still lose 5-4. And Evander establishes another 1-goal win for Cincy with a late firework. Quick little podcast update for you, by the way. We're going to be making some changes to the show. Not now, but coming up in the future. This episode will feature a standard MLS recap focused on Vancouver and Miami, then a U.S. men's national team whip around before a little World Cup check-in. After the MLS season ends, the first week of December, the World Cup is our priority. Expect episodes to feature the most relevant World Cup news of the week, conversations of which U.S. players should and should not make the team, and deep dives on nations not getting enough love. Expect new weekly segments, more famous guests, and further trivia, competitions, and more. Okay. Housekeeping out of the way. Got to start up north in Canada, Thomas Müller. First hat trick in the MLS, and then just a part of an insane performance.
There's been some incredible games so far already this year. I think Nashville was 7-1 against Chicago, and even Vancouver, there's been some crazy games in and outside of MLS. They lost 5-0 in that Champions Cup final. They've lost 5-3 to San Diego, but 7-0 against Philadelphia, who are top of the East. A team that was top of the West, Vancouver, but it was just an incredible game, a demolition for two teams that could easily play in that MLS Cup final in December. So it was a major marker. But yeah, Thomas Müller, the birthday boy, 36 years old, grabs his first MLS hat trick and shouts out Harry Kane at the end of it. Just to run through the game, an amazing Sebastian Berhalter, corner converted by Mateus Laborda. Emmanuel Sabi, who's looking like a really good player that's kind of come on recent weeks and months. He scored a brace. The second one was an absolutely beautiful curled effort. Thomas Müller kept it nice and simple. 2 penalties, a short close header from 6 yards out to complete his hat trick towards the end of the game. And Ryan Alumi scoring the other goal in that one for a 7-0 thrashing. Philly also had a goal pulled back in that game just to rub salt in the wounds. They got absolutely demolished. And I just think this is a really big result for Vancouver for several reasons, really. Since that damning Champions Cup final loss, they've been pretty inconsistent in MLS. They were the most consistent team to start the season, by far the most consistent team in the first half of the MLS season, but have recently fallen by the wayside. That being said, they have 2 games in hand on the conference leaders, who are San Diego and Minnesota. And if they win those games, they'll be back to the top of the West. But I also just think the way they're playing, it's put down a marker, it's raised a statement to the rest of the teams around them. But also, let's say they do meet Philly. There's a lot that can happen between now and the end of the season. Let's say they do meet them in the MLS Cup final. They've just beaten them 7-0. That is a serious marker to put down and a statement to make against a potential rival. But yeah, Thomas Müller, we know how great he is with the media. He posted a video after his hat trick and obviously after his birthday, essentially thanking his teammates, as you do. I mean, 2 penalties and a 6-yard header. It was mainly on them, but he was incredible in this game. And I think he's taken to the MLS way quicker and adapted way faster than I thought he would do. He's that classic kind of German target man. It's a dying breed now in world soccer, but Miroslav Klose, players like that for generations have done what he does. But it made me laugh at the end. He said, "I just want to greet my former teammates, especially Harry Kane. Now I know how you feel." And it's just raised a conversation between Jeremy and I, obviously jumping about Philadelphia, but could we potentially see Harry Kane here in the future? It's a wild one. He's still, in my opinion, the greatest striker in the world, which is insane for people that were doubting him towards the end of his time at Tottenham. But best striker in the world. He's contracted through 27. You never know. Son's here, Lloris is here. Could he join the former Spurs boys?
I think for Harry Kane to join the MLS, he would need to win one of two trophies in the next few years, being either the World Cup or the Champions League, to really feel like he's established everything he realistically could in the international game. If that happens, I could see him jumping straight to the MLS 2026, 2027. If not, I think he's going to push and shove everything he can to make sure he accomplishes that. One of those two things. Or the Euros.
I think he's got a while because his contract ends in 27. Like I said, there has been a release clause that's been reported. He can leave for $70 million at the end of this season if he wants to. Don't think an MLS club is going to pay that kind of fee yet. Maybe in the future, but with how the league is growing and grossing. But it looks like he may go back to Tottenham. That's always been the rumor. But maybe in the future, he's one of those players that hasn't relied on pace for much of his career and has definitely lost a yard of pace towards the end of his career now, but he doesn't need it. He's an incredible shooter. He's an incredible distributor, so intelligent. And I think MLS is the kind of, he'd be kind of maybe not as boisterous as Zlatan, but certainly have that presence up top.
I also can't believe you called Thomas Müller a target man.
He's
played first, no Brian White in this game, which does impact the role Muller plays. But yeah, his final goal was a nice header. He was running so much this game. You could see him dropping deep defensively and still making the runs up the field. His fitness is, to me, the most important thing, most notable thing. He can be a target man. He can also be a link-up player. He can also help distribute from deep. He's just the ultimate jack of all trades, and he's going to score a lot of goals just because he's really good and really talented. But it's just his versatility that just makes him so unique, even at his elder age. And this was a player who broke through at 18. This wasn't someone who broke through late. He's been at the top level for 15, 18 years now. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I got a lot of stick like back in the day. I remember when Bayern were firing with Robben and Ribery on the wings, and he scored in the Champions League final. Thomas Müller against Chelsea. They ultimately lost that game, but I thought back then he was one of the best players in the world. And it's kind of harsh on him. He doesn't look like your typical soccer player all the time. He's athletic, of course he is, but he's quite gangly. He has certain traits that don't appeal, but his IQ is just, he knows exactly what he's doing. He has so much quality in so many different areas. The versatility makes him stand out. And I think he was always going to be a hit at Vancouver, but I think maybe he's, come on even faster than they first thought when they signed him.
I'm just going to take the Philly angle here really quickly. Captain Alejandro Bedoya started at right back. Oh, God. It didn't matter who was playing on the wing, whether it be Emmanuel Sabi in the first half, whether it be Jade Nelson who subbed on the second half. Oh my God. I've just never seen a player look so out of his... It's a reminder so often at the top level of just how good the talent is. And then you insert someone who's clearly out of their depth at a certain position, particularly defensively, and just seeing how much you can be exposed. It was very clearly Vancouver's game plan all night to target Bedoya down that side at right back. Nathan Harriel moved to the middle at left center back. He looked pretty poor. Again, most recent call up to the U.S. men's national team. They're still starting Rick, the teenager, and goalie with Andre Blake out. Not impressed by Philadelphia's backline on this one. They still have Jacob Glesnes, Kai Wagner came off the bench in this one. I'd like to see that Philly backline get a little more sorted. The attack, we know what the attack can do. It's hard to analyze it in this game. Baribo didn't start, but he's been so great this season. They got Edlowski from San Diego, and he's now into the mix. If Philadelphia can reestablish this back line heading into the playoffs, I still don't doubt them. If not, they're going to lose and go out very early.
It's a freak game. Yeah, I don't think, obviously with how many games they've played and how they've performed all season, you can't really change how you see them just off one game, but it was a pretty damaging one. I always try and find positives in things. Maybe they'll look at that and they can fix problems that maybe weren't as exposed as they were now and, tighten up before the playoffs. But yeah, it's definitely not a good look.
No, not at all. Let's move ahead into the other most I think interesting game of the week is, Messi's involved, but it was the most interesting game of the week. It was Charlotte 3, Miami 0 at Charlotte. Great home crowd for this one. Luis Suarez, as we've noted, is out with his suspension for his incident in the League's Cup final. So is Thiago Allende, who lines up through the middle. Again, Charlotte, no Patrick Agyemang, so it was Toklamadi, the transfer from the Israel Premier League, through the middle, and he had himself a game. Miami won a penalty in the 30th minute. It had to go to review, but it was confirmed. Messi steps up against Christian Colina and tries a Panenka down the middle that's saved. We'll get onto it in a second. I have no problem with Messi attempting whatever he wants. He can attempt whatever he wants. He can say it's a bad decision, but he has earned the benefit of the doubt. If anyone has, in any sport, in any field, ever, he has earned the benefit of the doubt. Toklamadi, with the immediate answer 4 minutes later, drives the knife in 34th minute. Charlotte go up 1-0. Miami were just carved up throughout the second half. Bronico finds Toklamadi in the 47th minute to put him up 2-0. Aviles gets a second yellow in the 79th minute. Wilfred Zaha's taken down in the 83rd. I thought he's been very impressive in recent weeks. Toklamadi converts the penalty for his hat trick. That's 9 wins in a row in the MLS, not counting the League Cup. For Charlotte, they're up to 5th overall in the league. An unbelievable run of form for a team that we thought was inconsistent, that would show, strength and then show complete fragility. To put forth 9 in a row is pretty impressive, especially in as commanding fashion as it was today. They dominated even before the red card. I don't want to just say Suarez was out and the Miami attack looked worse, but that is what happened. So many talking points. But Joe, I'll pass it to you first about the Messi Panenka. I don't know how much we see eye to eye on this, but I think he's earned the benefit of the doubt, and I have no problem with him attempting that.
He has. I mean, he can do what he wants. He's, the greatest player I've ever seen. And he's certainly not going to care about my opinion, but it does annoy me. I know we disagree on this, but I'm thinking more from a team aspect. Just convert the penalty. You're 1-0 up. It's a big lead away from home against a team that's in really, really good form, as you pointed out. I also think credit to the goalkeeper here. Most goalkeepers that are going to be trying to save a penalty against Lionel Messi are going to be diving one way or the other. You're going to try and get as much of a head start as you can to try and save. He, double bluffed him. He stood there. Messi was expecting him to move and he didn't. Messi being, the greatest player I've ever seen, backs himself. He's not going to change what he's going to do. It failed miserably. When these Panenkas go in, they look amazing. They look classy. They look, it's a bit of a blow to the other team and bragging rights, etc. But I just think when it's 0-0, big game, a lot of negative press around Suarez, etc. Just convert the penalty. It annoys me when players do it, and it's nothing to do with Messi. It annoys me when anyone attempts a penalty when it's, essentially a free shot or goal, and then you kind of waste the opportunity. It annoys me. It's not a Messi thing, but it is what it is. He's also scored some beautiful, delicate chips in his life. So,
yeah, he has. In terms of like the complacency point of view, I don't know. I don't think he's bored. I mean, look, it's been a long season. He probably was like wanting to try a Panenka in game anyway. It was like, you know what? I have a penalty. It's the first half. I'm going to do it. I don't think he knew how the second half would go. Miami is still going to make the playoffs. They're still going to be fine. Seeding is going to be a little tricky now after losing games like this. They still obviously have some in hand, and they're going to be playing midweek to catch up for that. But I don't have any particular issue with that. I more have an issue with Miami's transition, defense and transition, which I've talked about all season. I have problems with their attack that's unable to create without Suarez, who's kind of playing as almost a false nine at this point. If he leaves next season, which I think he's now far more likely to do because of the League Cup suspension, what are they going to do up front? I don't think Miami are going to have a hard time recruiting a striker, but they're going to have to do that. And there is a chance that whoever they recruit isn't as good as Suarez has been. So that's just projecting future vulnerability. My last talking point on this one, Joe, is about the Golden Boot race. Just want to kick it to you on this one. Sam Surridge is currently top with 21 goals, 2 ahead of Messi, who's on 19. Third is Dennis Bouanga on 18, and they got a host of players on 17, players like Evander and whatnot. What's your pulse on this one?
As an English fan, Sam Surridge, go for it, mate. You got this. He's 2 goals ahead, but Messi has more games to play than Sam Surridge does with those games in hand. I think Messi might make it up. Obviously, he would have been on 20 if he'd have just taken the penalty correctly. But I think he will catch up. I think Boanga, obviously on 18, scored a hat-trick, which massively boosted his numbers and his position in the standings. But I think it's going to be between Surridge and Messi. And I think Messi will just inevitably, he'll shut me up next week and score an insane free kick from 30 yards or something like that. But I think he probably will catch him up. But Surridge is doing great.
Messi does have the tiebreak on assists, which would matter. Sam Surridge is way up in what my tiebreaker is expected goals by a lot. Evander has 17 goals. What do you think his XG is?
Evander, just over the whole season?
Yeah. He has 17 goals, though.
His XG off the 17 goals?
Yeah.
Well, he scored some ones from like range, so I'm assuming it's going to be quite low. I could say maybe an 8.
It's under 7.
Really? Wow.
It's stunning. I mean, look, he has an absolute peg on him, but that is an overperformance like you've ever seen. And we love Evander. This isn't bashing. You can overperform your XG and still be really good. He's a good finisher. It's just a model for how many goals anyone should score from the chances that he takes. I don't think any Cincinnati fan would look you in the eye and say Evander takes high quality chances. He takes chances for him that work, and sometimes he needs to go complete isolation ball hog mode to bail his team out. And he's done that numerous times all year, and that's why Cincinnati are still close to the top of the MLS table, despite being fairly unremarkable in most facets of play. They are dragged by one man. We're talking about an MVP argument. I could say if you take Evander off the team, that would have had the biggest detriment to a side's place in the table. I would put Messi in a close second. I don't know. I don't think Sam Surridge is my MVP, even though he's the top scorer, just in terms of like most valuable to your team. It's some combination of Messi, Boanga, and Evander for top 3 for me. Do you have a quick little power ranking or?
Yeah, I agree. I think Sam Surridge has been a good goal scorer. He isn't, as much as he's been great, he's not the MVP product that I think is going to be picked. I think Evander has been amazing, and I think we were expecting Kevin Denke to be right up there, and he has been fine, but Evander has really kind of taken that team himself forward a step, in my opinion. So Messi's probably going to get it and probably deserves it, to be honest, but I do think Evander definitely needs to be in that conversation until the end.
Hey, if you want to get involved in the conversation, shoot us an email at alloutfootball@reachplc.com. Please engage by subscribing to the show wherever you get podcasts. That's the end of part 1 of this week's All Out Soccer, but stick around for part 2 just after the break. And we're back. We're going to look at some U.S. men's national team recap. We're getting some updates, mind you, in live time. Tim Weah just scored at the Bernabeu to put Marseille up 1-0. It's now 1-1, but he scored to put them up 1-0. He's starting on the right wing every week for a team, I think, in Marseille that could challenge for the Ligue 1 title. Also, Weston McKennie's playing. Ricardo Pepi played today. Blah, 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 blah. First, as we always do, we're going to start in the United Kingdom, the bedrock of American soccer in Europe. There's a few players, I think, who were in action this week.
Yeah, and it was another really positive return. First of all, Chris Richards, we talk about him every week, and that's because he's doing what he needs to do every week. Another clean sheet for Crystal Palace. They drew 0-0 at home to Sunderland, which was quite a poor result for them. They should have really been looking to win that, but he did his job, and that makes it 3 consecutive clean sheets for him at the back line now. They drew 0-0 against Fredrikstad to qualify for the Conference League, and they also beat Aston Villa 3-0. So really, really good form, Chris Richards. He's looking amazing, and we spoke about the US team moving forward, but he is definitely a key part of that for the World Cup next summer. A big one, really exciting stuff. Patrick Adjaman, we spoke about him leaving Charlotte. He's been injured. He came off the bench against Derby County away at West Brom, who have been kind of running away with it. And them and Middlesbrough have been top of the championship, playing really, really good stuff. But Patrick Adjaman came off the bench alongside another striker, Andreas Weimann. He assisted him. They won 1-0, massive result away from home for Derby County, and what a way to announce himself as well. Elsewhere, it was a US men's national team striker derby as Norwich played Coventry City away. It finished 1-1, and the reason it finished 1-1 is because Haji Wright scored in the 96th minute a freak goal for Coventry to salvage a point, even though they dominated Norwich. But another telling fact here is that Josh Sargent did not score, and it's the first time he has failed to score in a game this season. So Wright winning that one, but the points shared. But yeah, really, really top stuff in the UK, and they're all doing well.
Yeah. I'm getting a little word in my ear from my earpiece, from our production team, that Real Madrid have taken the lead. It's 2-1 late against Marseille. Shout out Tim Weah. He's starting every week on the right wing for Marseille in Roberto De Zerbi's crazy system where they've just brought in a host of players this summer. That's really exciting. I think that's a long-term option for Weah in the U.S. men's national team starting 11. Mauricio Pochettino said this week that Alejandro Zendejas is a candidate to make the World Cup squad. He was starting there in the last batch of friendlies. I would rather see Tim Weah start than Zendejas. That's just me. But that's just one to monitor. Going to fly through some other players, including ones involved in the UCL action on this Tuesday afternoon. Ricardo Pepi, before the UCL today, scored 2 goals against the weekend against Nek Nielmin. Excuse my Dutch. The first came off a great turn, did a pirouette with the ball and finished across his body. The second one was a fantastic header, assisted by Ivan Perisic. He started then against Union Saint-Gilloise in the Champions League with Alison Playa still out. Didn't do much and was subbed in the 76th minute as his side fell 3-1. Serginho Dest was also involved in that one. After starting at left back on the weekend, where he recorded an assist, he started at right back in the UCL and played the whole game. That versatility is important in case for injuries. He should be starting at right back for the U.S. men's national team, but he has been featuring a lot at left back for PSV, and arguably you could say that's his preferred position at this point, which is interesting. But with Anthony Robinson fit, if he's fit and playing left back, he's going to start there. If he's not, and he's struggled with injuries so far this season, that gives Pochettino another option. Florian Balogun started up front for Monaco in a 4-4-2 next to Mike Beereth. He logged an assist. It's an interesting formation tweak. The U.S. aren't going to play that shape. It's going to be interesting to see if Monaco continue to play that this season. I'm not going to say the name of their coach because it is very synonymous with a defamed world leader. But if anyone knows what it is, you'll know why I'm not saying it. Okay, Gio Reyna. He started for Borussia Mönchengladbach on his debut in the number 10, and it went well. No, it didn't. They lost 4-0. They're probably going to sack their coach and bring in American Pellegrino Matarazzo as a replacement. But for Reyna, this is the perfect role. He's back in the Bundesliga. He's starting as a 10. They have some interesting forward options around him. Shout out Tim Kleindienst, the striker at Borussia Mönchengladbach, that he's going to play off of this season. If Reyna can't make it work this season, I will be finally off the Gio Reyna train. And one more to wrap things up. My boy, Weston McKennie. Talk about jack of all trades. Juventus this season are playing a 3-5-1-1 formation because why the hell not? Over the weekend in their crazy 4-3 win over Inter Milan, Weston McKennie lined up at left wing back. Today against Borussia Dortmund, again, got word in my ear, that game finished 4-4 because of course it did. McKennie lined up at right wing back. This is my question for you. Is it good that he's proving his versatility, or is it bad that he doesn't have a locked-in starting spot?
I'd say the latter. I think it's bad. It's good that he's playing in these areas, and in terms of a personal growth, it's good. But in terms of locking down your position, which is a position that you will need to know for the World Cup, it's bad. In terms of right wing back, that was obviously Serginho Dest, and even Timothy Weah has played there before, so that's kind of locked and loaded. I was really impressed with Arston recently, and Anthony Robinson being the guy. That's not a position where McKennie is going to play. He needs to find somewhere that he's going to play regularly in the middle. Whether that means a January move, I know we go to this conversation again, I'm not sure, but I don't think being that guy going here, there, and everywhere. It's like James Milner at Liverpool a few years back when he was going all over the back line and in the midfield. But he needs to find his spot, and he needs to own it, and he needs to prove his worth before the World Cup.
I disagree. I don't think Weston McKennie is ever going to start for Pochettino in a midfield too. It's going to be Adams and someone else. I think McKennie needs to play. And if you can shoehorn him in on the wing where he does the responsibilities of a midfielder, while there's another either winger or wingback underneath him who can do some of the more classical wing work and touchline work, and McKennie is kind of hybridizing in between those two roles, a la someone like Jordan Henderson was doing a big part when he was at Liverpool. When Trent would invert inside, Henderson would occupy that space of the wing. I think that's a very interesting role for Weston McKennie, and that versatility with Pochettino still figuring out his lineup will be useful. And if it gets him in the team for the US and gets him in the team for Juventus, I have no problem.
It's better to be playing than not playing, 100%. But I just feel like if he's in that versatile role, that would be someone that comes off the bench when you need him rather than starting. Of course, he's not going to start in that midfield 2 right now, but does he want to prove himself and try and put pressure on that position? That's what I'm trying to say.
I don't disagree. Just an interesting thing to consider and food for thought. And glad we're talking about Weston McKennie as opposed to not. But let's talk about the country he plays in, among others. So he plays in Italy. Italy are no lock to make the World Cup. Joe proposes. I thought it was interesting to do a quick little World Cup run through. I'm just going to do a quick outline of interesting nations that have qualified and nations that are still in the bubble. And Joe, like, we have some points where we're gonna discuss a little more at length. Looking at Asia, the big names have all qualified: Iran, South Korea, Japan, Australia. They will be joined by Uzbekistan and Jordan. That's very interesting. Some others still to qualify. In Africa, Egypt are in, Senegal are likely to be in. Then we have Nigeria, who look to be on the outside looking in because of the way they started their group. Can you believe, Joe, we might have another World Cup without the Super Eagles?
Yeah, the runners-up of the Africa Cup of Nations might even make it. I mean, they have so much quality, but I just feel like there's so many moving pieces. They can't seem to get that like one squad ready, and they were winless through their first 4 games of qualifying, which is crazy. And currently top of their group is South Africa, who look like they're destined to top the group. So the chance of Nigeria, just to qualify, just to say you have to win the group that you're in, and then the best ranked second place teams will then enter a playoff scheme to try and get those remaining berths. South Africa look primed to take that spot, but Nigeria behind Cameroon, Namibia, and Uganda, who are all 4 points better off with 2 games to play, it's looking like Nigeria are going to miss out. Which means, whenever Nigeria make the World Cup, they're always in the same group as Argentina. So maybe they'll miss out on that. But it's looking like they're going to miss it, which is a big, big problem. And that's going to, lead to a lot of changes in their soccer federation, 100%, because they're one of, they're probably the biggest team in Africa, one of them 100%.
Oh, yeah. They need to win both of their next 2 games and hope a ton of other teams just don't pick up points. In terms of their federation, let alone their federation, the players choosing to play for Nigeria, if you go 2 straight World Cups without participation, there's a whole generation then who has not seen Nigeria play in the World Cup. And Nigeria, obviously, their biggest issue is dealing with dual nationals, players who can play for countries like England. If they lose further that talent pool, it's just a big strike against them. It seemed like they were gaining so much momentum and securing some of those players. And it now seems if they don't make the World Cup, that's going to be more of a challenge. Continuing to peruse through CONCACAF, there's still 3 spots up for grabs with the changes. Excuse me, maybe even 3 shots up for grabs with the automatic qualifiers. Looks like Jamaica are going to qualify for the World Cup, and that would be really, really exciting. The 4th place team in that will then go into an intercontinental playoff, so it could be even more, but it would be great to see Jamaica in the World Cup. South America, Venezuela absolutely bottled the final day, losing to a Colombia side with nothing to play for. They will miss out on the intercontinental playoff spot to Bolivia. We're getting new teams in the field. Hashtag 48-team World Cup. In Oceania, you're getting New Zealand straight into the World Cup for the first time since 2010. That was a very interesting time for them. I remember that team very, very clearly. Chris Wood was in that squad to date how old that man is. And then looking at Europe, some interesting teams facing uphill battles, namely Italy and Germany. Joe, if there's either of those you think are more interesting, please hop in.
Well, they're both massive. Germany would be a big loss, but Italy failed to qualify for the Qatar World Cup in 2022, which came a year after they'd won the European Championships, beating England, sadly, at Wembley. We can move on from that day and that game quickly because it still haunts me. But yeah, it's a weird one with them. They kind of go through eras. I know all national teams do, but Italy, back in the day, 2006, when they were in the World Cup and beating France, their team was just stacked with talent. Totti, Luca Toni, Gianluigi Buffon in goal. And then they've gone through this resurgence more recently where they looked really good at the European Championships, obviously. And now they just seem stripped of talent. And they're facing a massively uphill battle in their group because Norway are running away with it. They've won all 5 games. And the big thing with them is they just beat Moldova 11-1. So they have a 21 goal difference over Italy, who I think have just 5, which could really come down to it. Italy got a really, really big last-minute win over Israel recently, which has kept them in contention for that second place spot. But they're not playing well, and Norway look like they're going to have that group locked down. So Italy could potentially go through via a playoff, but they're definitely not one of the stronger teams anymore. So it could be a second consecutive World Cup where they're not in it.
Italy are going to need to beat Norway the next time they face. Italy are going to need to win out. That includes beating Norway, and hope Norway drop points against Israel, Estonia, or someone like that. I'm going to push back. I think this Italy team is actually more talented than they've had in recent teams, especially both in midfield and attacking areas. I think the biggest difference is in defense. But, you can look at the back line and say Federico Di Marco, Alessandro Bastoni, and Giovanni Di Lorenzo, 3 of their 4 starters in defense, are all world-class players. They have Donnarumma behind them in goal. I think this is actually not that bad of a team. I think the spine is finally starting to come together. Sandro Tonali, Nico Barella. The German national team, I'm not more concerned about because of how much talent they have, and obviously they're coached by Julian Nagelsmann. They just have this kind of bottle job tendency recently. It's hard to explain.
Yeah, I think Italy have some amazing talent, like you just said. I just think they're lacking those leaders. I mean, Donnarumma in goal is certainly one of them, but actually kind of in the field, I just don't think there's that one, big figure that's kind of leading them. And I think the same with Germany, maybe. Italy and Germany have always played a certain way, and football's been evolving a lot recently. This is definitely a deeper topic to go into, but maybe not for now. But I feel like both Italy and Germany have lost the identity of what their national team is more recently. And they're both struggling as a result of it. I mean, Germany hasn't. They won the World Cup in 2014, and since then they just haven't looked the same.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. We want the big teams in the tournament to make it interesting. You kind of want them along as far as possible, and then obviously a mix of minnows in countries you don't usually expect to qualify. Cape Verde look like they're going to be in the World Cup field. They'd be the second smallest nation to ever qualify, second to Iceland. I would be amazing to see, a country like Italy, so established, play Cape Verde at the first, in the group stage. So we want the big teams in, but we also want room for minnows. We want everyone. Obviously, if we could have a full World Cup, that would be great, but that's not going to happen. But we're really, really excited. It's going to be here on U.S. soil next year.
Absolutely.
That just about wraps it up for this week's All Out Soccer podcast. He's been Joseph McBride. I've been Jeremy Goldstein. We hope you can enjoy us. You can join us again on the next episode of All Out Soccer. Or as Thomas Müller would say, Auf Wiedersehen.